I initially was really afraid of the character of Rose because reading her on the page, I was like, this bitch is hard. Like, I just didn't know where she was coming from. I had a lot of conversations with Molly about like what had happened to her, like right when we meet her. And she was like, well, you got to kind of map that out, right?
All right, so I'm Tyler Nichols with JoBlo.com, and I was actually lucky enough to see Next Exit at Fantasia Fest earlier this year. Yeah, and I absolutely loved it, and so I'm really, really excited to talk to you today.
Amazing. Honestly, that was probably one of my favorite screenings that we had. I stopped watching the movie a little while ago because it's so hard for me to watch because I'm just like, oh, I should have made this choice and that choice, and I just judge myself.
Yeah.
And being in the room with that audience, I was like, these people love movies. It was so much fun. And so I just couldn't, I had so much fun being in that room. And I actually watched the whole movie because I think the audience made me love it more than I had loved it for a while.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. And so I'm really curious, what inspired you to write this story and have it be your feature-length debut?
I wish I was more intentional with like, this is going to be my debut. It wasn't. I had other scripts that I had been taking out and just for one reason or another hadn't worked or weren't working yet or wrong budget or wrong whatever. And this one, I always knew this was the one that I had on the back burner. This is the one that I almost never pitched. This is the one that was my heart and soul. And I knew it was just me entirely. And so it wasn't until I had been writing this on and off in bits and pieces for like 7-8 years, and it was Rose McIver. I was working on a short film with her called Nice Ride that she directed, and she asked me, we were just having drinks, like what I wanted, and I said, well, there's actually this script that means the world to me. And so she brought me to a horror convention in Hawaii in which she locked me in a hotel room and said, finish the script. And I think it was the first time somebody gave me permission to just be a writer and to just accomplish a goal, and so I did. And then I had something to take out, and right as I was getting going, COVID hit, and I was like, damn it.
So why can some people see ghosts?
The strong connection between Rio and his father brought them together, and the rest as well. History in the making.
So I'm curious as to what intrigued you about this script and the character of Rose.
I initially was really afraid of the character of Rose because reading her on the page, I was like, this bitch is hard. Like, I just didn't know where she was coming from. I had a lot of conversations with Molly about like what had happened to her, like right when we meet her. And she was like, well, you got to kind of map that out, right? And so it gave me a lot of permission to create that. And I think my initial negative reaction to Rose was that I actually saw a lot of myself in her, but a part that I want to hide and like present like perfectionism and everything's okay when that's not, necessarily true all the time.
No.
And so I got really excited then about playing her because I had never seen a character like her before on film, like just a really hard edge right from the bat. And I think my misogynistic conditioning was like, women have to be likable. You know what I mean? When it's like, nah, that's not true. She's fabulously interesting and glorious to map out.
Yeah, so Rose is dealing with a lot in this movie, and so how were you able to put yourself in such a fragile headspace when filming? Like, did you have a sad playlist or anything like that to get you in that mode?
Yeah, I did have a sad playlist. It was also just like a weird time. Like we shot the movie in January and February of 2021. So like it was after, it was still very much during the pandemic, but we were coming out of this like bizarre time. And I feel like a lot of the themes in the movie are about rebirth, like reinventing who you are. And I don't know, like to get into the headspace, it actually wasn't that hard because I was just like, what the fuck is going on in the world?
I'm taking a trip. Where are you going? It's difficult to say.
So this is supposed to be goodbye? No, I'll come back and haunt you.
So I'm curious as to what intrigued you about this script and specifically the character of Teddy.
Honestly, I loved the premise, the idea of it. Like, hard proof and the world, what this world would look like if there was viable proof of the and I like the idea of people opting out, because now they know. But the truth of the matter is, it was the way in which the film was being shot, and that intrigued me more, and it was purely because of where I was coming from. So I was sent the script by Mike, Marley, and Rose McIver, and my manager, all individually, while I was shooting Midnight Mass. And Mike had followed up with me a couple of times, and he was like, dude, read it or tell me, because this is rude. I was like, oh shit, I should read it. And when I read it, so the idea of being on the road, when I had a meeting with Marley after liking the script, and she was telling me that we were going to shoot this literally on the road, almost sequentially from start to finish. It's going to be a two-hander, you and Katie in the car. And I'd known Parker for a while through friends. And Sheriff Hassan is who I was currently playing at the time, and that character required a ton of work, a ton of prep. I was using a different accent, and I was playing a character who couldn't really show his emotions. He had to keep containing it, and it was 6 months of quite a stoic, rigid character, and rightfully so. I loved playing that person. Mm-hmm. What attracted me to Teddy was getting to the opportunity to play the complete opposite and be a motor mouth and wear my heart on my sleeve. Mm-hmm. And so it was just the right project at the right time. And I spent so long not being able to. I love improv. I love mucking around. I love throwing extra lines of dialogue. We had fun on iZombie. We could do that. We had space to do that too. And so I asked Marley, because the original script called for Teddy to be American, and I was currently doing that. And I was like, I don't want to fucking do that. Please, I don't want another dialect. I don't want to be stuck in that world. I want to be able to go off the page, and I'm not going to do that if I'm worrying about my accent. So as much as I loved the premise and the script, and Marley's pitch, and it was actually an opportunity to just do something completely different as a response to Sheriff Hassan.
Are you two together?
She should be so lucky.
When's your appointment?
7 days.
Mine's in 5. You serial killer?
Yeah, no.
6 a.m. the car leaves.
It's dealing with very tough subject matter with suicide, but then it also has the supernatural element. And so I'm really curious as to how, when you were presented with the script, if there was any bit of concern of how it would be pulled off, because I know that even watching the movie, I was like bracing for that third act, like, oh, well, are they going to be able to handle it? And then how it's done is just beautiful. It's so well pulled off.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was nervous about that element, but I mean, we're not like glorifying suicide at all. I think it's a very honest conversation about death. And I think culturally, particularly in American culture, we're so afraid of death, which is fascinating because we know immediately when something's born, it's going to die. We know that. But we, I think, are afraid of having control over that. I'm not sure why.
Once you're in a state of passing, we terminate your physical form. 3, 2, 1.
Wait. But oddly, it became even more relevant once COVID hit, because this whole idea of like one thing changing and the ripple effects throughout the world, everybody got. I used to have to try to sell people on that. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh no, we get it. And so everybody thinks that I like wrote this because of COVID. And the truth is this was always there. It just made more sense to people once that happened. And so that was just really lucky.
We're not pals. We're not in this together, okay?
How many people know what it's like to be us right now?
At our institute, we now bridge dozens of new participants daily from this world to the next.
Because your character really brings a lot of levity to the film. And so does that mean that the humor was in the script, or did you bring a lot of that yourself?
Oh, no, it was there for sure.
Okay.
I mean, there's definitely ad-libs. A good example is the last line, I think Teddy's last line of, you want to die twice, was just a complete ad-lib from me when he's given the car keys. There's conversations that are ad-libbed, that I have nevers are made up. Okay. Some of them are scripted, and then we go on tangents, and that was it really. It was, I wouldn't go, it's not an improv thing. It's pretty much as scripted. There's just flourishings and sprinkles of spontaneity throughout which I think is perfect for a buddy road trip movie.
Let's try and have some fun today, please.
Okay, so what's fun?
I did it!
How are you able to deal with the balancing act of, you know, treating this respectfully while also still trying to tell your story?
I mean, that was a constant conversation, and one in which I think you just have to have no ego and you have to listen to people. And one, you know, with the script, I had a bunch of people that I really trusted read it. And with the cut, I did the same thing. I think that's kind of, this is where directors' intentions actually matter. I wasn't trying to shock an audience. I wasn't trying to scare them. I wasn't trying to do anything. I was trying to have an earnest conversation with feelings that I have had in my life. And also, I am aware, you know, I worked on The Parties just beginning with Karen Gillan, which also deals with suicide.
Mm-hmm.
There is a serious responsibility that you have as a filmmaker who brings up that word, to make sure that you are not antagonizing or instigating any thoughts from your viewers. So that was imperative for me to think about, of how to have an honest conversation, and then also how to have some joy and fun and show how one can heal from that. And not do it in a melodramatic way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm glad it worked. I know,
Yes.
you know, it was one of those things that like, you don't know if it's going to work until people watch it and you just pray that it does. I wish I could say that I was like skilled and knew exactly what I was doing. Honestly, I followed my intentions of what I wanted to accomplish, and I listened to people as they told me how they were feeling about it. And that's what we did.
I want my life to mean something. I don't want to hate life. I want to embrace what's next.
You practice that? You got like an Instagram handle for the afterlife?
Well, and it's amazing too that because the third act you get into some very like ethereal visuals, and so it's amazing that you were still able to accomplish it being very, very grounded. And so I'm wondering, how much did you struggle with the CGI and how much to show, what not, because that I think is what worked out so well, and that it didn't, if it was just a little further in the CGI direction, it may have come off cheesy, but you did like just the right amount.
Yeah, I did most of that is all in camera tricks too. Like the whole like Katie swap, or I should say Rose swapping out. That was just a body double, and like trying the, you know, I don't want to give away too much, but you know, floors were all real. We didn't do a lot of effects. And then, yeah, we just wanted to add a couple little tiny moments. And it was also very important to me that in the other side, when we do go there, that it was represented by light. The darkness is the things that she can't let go. The ghosts and the things that haunt us aren't actually what are scary. Ghosts aren't actually scary. The way that we perceive them and what we make them out to be, that's the horror show. And so that's why I think, you know, when people originally wanted this to be a horror film, I was just like, I'm sorry, it's just never going to do that. It's a ghost story.
Yeah.
But it's not a horror story.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a character piece than anything.
I hope so.
What you do here still matters. You know that every time you disappear, another little piece of my heart breaks.
And I'm curious too. So your chemistry with Rahul in this is phenomenal. And
Thanks.
So did you guys know each other prior to filming, or what did you do to build up that kind of trust?
Yeah, I'm close with Rose McIver. We actually used to live together. She plays my sister in the movie, and she was on a show called iZombie. And so I met Rahul through Rose, like maybe 2016, and just met him socially. And then Mike Flanagan hired him in The Haunting of Bly Manor. And then, yeah, we would just like hang out with friends, but the chemistry just came very naturally. Maybe because he like feels like my brother. There's like a real comfortability there.
Yeah.
I lost everyone.
So? I never even had anyone.
But I did. I can't make it stop.
You can stop! I need you!
And so what are you most proud of with this project?
What a great question. I'm really proud of the process. This has been one of my favorite artistic experiences. I was really proud of how kind people were on set. There was a real flow. There was a lot of listening happening with the process of making this film. And I'm really proud of the message. I hope that it brings people hope and makes people feel safe to reveal the darker sides of themselves and know that somebody is going to shine light on the darkness. And that is where your healing journey begins.
I see it. This darkness. It's irresistible.
I've lost track of the number of times that I have told people that they need to watch Midnight Mass, and specifically, it is your performance that I'm like, dude, you got to see this. Yeah, and I think I've gotten probably 30 people to watch it. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's. I wish more people had. I think it's got to. One of the great things about Mass, I think, is it might not have blown up like a Stranger Things, and it wasn't supposed to. It wasn't there for that. I think it's being on that platform. A hit. How do you define a hit for Netflix? Squid Game. It was all of a sudden got to take over the world. It was a hit. It was a hit in its own right. But what we got, which I hadn't had before, is this real kind of industry praise that I hadn't had in my career for a project I'd been on. So I've been filming on other projects, and people would be like, "Dude, Midnight Mass," and it's from other actors and producers. And I think that's been awesome.
Well, the JoBlo horror side, it gets brought up a lot. We're really, really big fans. So
sweet.
I'll show them. They don't have to be afraid of us. I'll show them who we are.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious too. So what are you working on next?
A bunch of things. I produced Laura Moss's Birth Rebirth, which will come out next year. That's one that I've been on as a producer for the past 6 years. Modern day Frankenstein remake, which I'm very excited about.
Awesome.
And then I'm really trying to direct again. And so there's 2 projects that might happen next. And one needs financing and one needs an actor. So let's see which one goes first. I do really want to make a horror film.
Well, I guess my one final question to wrap things up is, what do you have coming out next that our audience can keep an eye out for?
Yeah. Well, The Midnight Club just dropped on Netflix, and I'm in a couple episodes of that. Yeah, thank you. I think episode 5 in the last episode, I play a character called a Say-So. And then another Flanagan project, The Fall of the House of Usher, is coming out, I think in a year. I'm not exactly sure when it comes out, but I would guess like.
Trust me, we're all waiting for all that news. It's been it's one of those things where I'm on the same boat. I'm asking everyone that's been involved in that production of like, do you know anything that's coming out?
Dude, it's a trip. I can't wait for that to be out. I think people are going to be like, what have they done? It's awesome.
That's fantastic to hear. And I'm really curious too, because looks like I'm having to wrap up, and I have to ask, I asked Katie, I'm going to ask every single person that has worked on this project. Can you tell me anything about House of Usher? Anything?
Sure. Yeah. I've seen some of it. And it's wild.
Yeah.
It's, Mike Flanagan's crushing it on this one. I don't think people are ready for it. I'm very excited, and once again, Mike showing me complete kind of confidence and trust allowed me to kind of run with another character that's completely different from the other 3 he's had me play. So yeah, super proud, and everyone on this show really brings their A game.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today, Katie. This was great.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Thanks, you as well.
Bye.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, pleasure, man. Thank you.
You have a good one.
You too.